coming along. Thanks for coming along. So Nadine, what are we talking about today?
So tonight, what our topic is how our reality is created by our everyday, or how our reality is created by our everyday environment.
Yeah, look, terrific. I really like this because I think it brings home to us all of these things that we're curious about, whether it's about healing or education or insight or spirituality. I think this is where the rubber hits the road. What happens in our everyday lives, and how is it that our inner self is affected, shaped, or otherwise by the world around us, and how is our outer world created by our inner world and reality? Because of course we co-create everything. And if the examples I want to use are perhaps the less extreme ones. I want to talk about us everyday people in our everyday lives, not perhaps where you're in an extreme environment. For example, you're in a profession like you're a police officer or an emergency doctor or a miner, or you're in prison, for example. I mean, that's extreme environments, and they absolutely shape you. So I just want to talk about the everyday ones for this talk, if that's okay. You know, interesting thing. So of course we have our belief systems, and our belief systems are formed at different stages where we made assumptions and we took actions that were effective. You know, they helped us survive. They helped us get us through the moment. And since they worked, we did them again, and we reinforced them, and we house them in our body with vibrational signatures, with chemical signatures. And these are our database of how do we react to a situation, to an environment. And so in life, you know, how do we react to certain things that are going on, whether it's the dog suddenly barking at us, or whether it's perhaps your boss looking at you in a particular way, or whether it's your co-worker who wore a particular perfume and you find yourself having a reaction. And that reaction may be not what you expect. It could be a strong emotion, whether it's anything like my dog saying hello, excuse me, everyone. Anything like anger or love or grief or loss, or anything that can be triggered up. So what do we do in our everyday lives that helps us to be in a place of more conscious choice? Because after all the work we do is about being mindful, as we would say, being in the present moment. And if we're here and now, it means we can consciously choose what we're doing and what's happening, and also the effect of that from our own personal viewpoint. Obviously, if others are involved, they're going to have their own reaction going on. So what do you think, guys? What do we do? What can we do to be in this place of being more present, more connected, more engaged in consciously choosing what's going on?
Well, for me, it's really about how I start my day.
Mm-hmm.
I seem to flow even on from the other webinar. I seem to have so much that I need to do that starting my day, taking breaths and grounding at the start of the day lets it flow. And I don't become quite so reactive if the next thing in line doesn't happen, or this is, not supposed to. So really starting grounded is important for me. Otherwise, I go off track from the moment I put my foot out of bed,
So that's a beautiful thing. And we won't linger on it, but for the purposes of this discussion, grounding is about allowing a flow and a connection to the different parts of us, our mental, our physical, our emotional, our energetic, our spiritual selves. And there's many practices for doing that. Traditional practices like yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, many other Aboriginal forms. All the native cultures tended to have a way to connect to the earth, which brought them connection to spirit and self. So, in the modern world, we've got some scientific ways to do it, which are based on some of those, or you can utilize any of those or combinations. So it's about being in that place of stillness and being in a place of flow in stillness. And what a great way to start the day. Excellent. Let's assume that we're in that place and we're going through life. And of course, we're running quite hectic lives. We're busy. We're doing multiple things. You know, there's parenting, there's school, there's work, there's other things, there's relationships, there's God knows all the things that we do. And add to that study and otherwise and interest. So what happens when you find yourself reacting in a way which is a surprise to you?
Just acknowledging that and even taking a step back and breathing, I find is really helpful.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. So what are you doing by doing all of that, Tennille?
I guess being mindful and acknowledging your surroundings and being more aware of your reaction to the moment, I guess.
And you're making a conscious choice in that moment by doing all of those things. Because if you do that, you're finding that you're able to make a different choice, which you then, in that instance, I'm supposing you chose to do, and your experience of that environment is then different.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Wow, that's super cool. And the simple things you just said there are really great. I mean, just taking a breath, moving your body, changing something. So we're all familiar with hacks. You know, it's the thing around in every space right now. How do I hack this? How do I hack that? What's a body hack? Well, you know what? This is a life hack we're talking about. What are the simple things we can do that take us out of the groove that we're reacting in that moment? And that groove could be something from our history. And therefore, we're not in a place of conscious present choice. We're reacting. You know, why is it that when your partner rolls their eyes, that all of a sudden you're furious? Sorry, darling, I wasn't talking about you. Now behave, ladies. What a common example, right? Perhaps whether it's rolling of the eyes, whether it's a smirk, whether it's something that just infuriates us. And in that moment, it's like, oh, they're doing it again. Well, yeah, so much is said in that, isn't it? They are doing it again. So in that moment, what level of conscious choice is going on?
Not very
Probably not a lot. Right.
No.
What are some of the giveaways in the vocabulary I just used? Because this is probably common things we would think normally, yeah? They are doing it again, for example.
Well, it's frustration, it's short, it's terse, it's
anger, fear, all the above, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, so that's very insightful what you guys are saying. I want to keep it a little bit more simplistic even. How about the vocabulary? What does the vocabulary tell you in that example? Hey, they are doing it again.
That it's their fault, that they are doing it, that it's
right.
them. Yeah.
So what's my state of being if I'm making this reaction about someone else or outside of me? Am I in an empowered space there?
No.
Right.
No, not at all.
Of course we're not. So if we're not seeing what our reaction is and what our part is in something, we're automatically disempowered. So these are good road signs for when we might need a hack. Good example, yeah? Oh my goodness, hang on a moment. I'm making about someone else and I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm all those things you mentioned before, Tennille. Now, is my experience of my life going to be very good if I stay in that space?
No.
It's not going to be very fulfilling, is it? Even if we stop arguing, somehow I don't think my wife and I or your partner and you are going to have a very intimate and connected, flowing moment after that. You might sit there holding hands, watching a movie and having a drink, and inside going, so it's more a wrestling of wills than perhaps a connection in a surrendered way that we probably want to have with that person in that moment. Does that kind of make sense? So isn't it cool if we can identify, hey, hang on a moment, maybe I'm not fully me in this moment. Maybe I'm not turning up in a way that helps me in my experience of my life. Now notice, have I mentioned anyone else in that? Right, because the only thing I can really affect, if we think about it, is what? My reality. Right. Now, it doesn't mean that I have to like what's going on around me. But if I'm authentically connected to who I am, and I'm in this moment of making a conscious choice, then I'm empowered and my life is my own. So let me give you an example of where it may not be necessarily a nice outcome. There may be a situation where I'm truly angry or upset or in a place of not accepting the situation. And that is my truth. You know what? I'm really angry right now because that's not acceptable. It's very disrespectful to me for me to be treated this way, and I will not accept that. Now, that's not what you would call a nice thing sometimes. But compare that to and everything else that could potentially happen with that energy. How do you feel, guys, as I express that?
Well, for me, I don't seem to get a reaction when you say that, because you're saying, you know, this is where I'm at and this is who I am and what's going on for me, and I don't feel able to do anything about it. And I'm like, well, okay. You've told me, so I don't need to react in some way.
Did you feel attacked? Did you feel attacked by me at all?
No, not at all.
So that's the important thing, right? For effective communication, if we can speak our truth. And sometimes it's, as you suggested earlier, we've got to create a hack because we're trapped in a reaction which may not be overly positive and lead to effective communication and connection. Yeah. So Tenille, some of the things you said were beautiful. I could take a breath. You could get up and move your body. You could, just kind of do something different to what your body wants to do in that moment, what your mind tells you to do. And if you're not sure what to do, just do something. Because you know what? There's an old saying. You can't tell if you're going in the right direction if you're standing still.
No,
So we need movement.
Yeah.
Right. So we create movement. And with movement, we have a sense of direction.
Yeah.
Even if it's going diametrically opposite to what you need to go, in the direction you need to go, at least you then know it. And you go, hang on a moment, I've got to turn around 180. That's a different task. However, at least I'm clear on where I need to move. So if you're not sure, it's a good idea just to do something different. Even if you don't appreciate that thing that you may not be in the moment. So in other words, we may not entirely know that we're caught in a reaction. But you know what? We get to know our own behavior after a while. So, a classic for me is, my wife pointed this out years ago, but sometimes when I'm overly thinking about something, I'll do this. I'll be sitting there doing this. And I only do it when I'm around them because I'm relaxed, right? So it'll be my wife and kids, and I'm just sitting there and my wife goes, are you a bit nervous? You're a bit anxious? You're thinking about something? And I'm like, yeah, I am. But these are the road signs that we want to start to acknowledge and recognize in ourselves. Who's ever bitten their nails or bites their nails now? Anyone? No one on this call?
No,
it's a common thing. Yeah, that's exactly it. It's a common thing, isn't it? A lot of people will bite their nails and they'll just say, oh, I'm just stressed or whatever. However, even if you don't know if anything's wrong and you find yourself biting your nails in that situation, it's a sign, isn't it? Hang on a moment. I'm doing something. And in the past, when I did this, it meant certain things. So even if I can't feel it, maybe if I'm doing this, I'm feeling some of those things. And if I'm feeling some of those things, am I really present and aware and able to make conscious choices right now? Am I the best me to be assessing, deciding, or taking action on the thing that I'm thinking about in this moment? I'm sure we're very competent in the way we're assessing it in most instances, but is it the best me that's showing up for that decision process? And what could it hurt to try and test, hey? So create a mini hack. And all the things we're talking about are really important. I mean, you could just close your eyes and do a little meditation. You can do something physical. You can do some breathing. I would move. I would tune into what is my natural response in this moment. What do I feel like doing? Oh, I feel like sitting back in the chair and crossing my legs. So if that's how I felt, what would you recommend as a hack for me, ladies, in that moment? If I said, oh, look, I just feel like leaning back and crossing my legs.
Well, I'd stand up for a start.
Oh, that's interesting.
And
So you
move.
suggest something very different.
Yeah.
Stand up and move around.
Mm.
What could
Even
I
if
do?
it
What do
was
you...
just
Sorry?
even if it was just walking and breathing, but something.
Excellent. Excellent. So many of you would have come across that as an active meditation. Yeah. Walking slowly, activate your senses, breathing. What are you feeling? What are you seeing? What are the sensations in your body? And all of a sudden, different connections start to happen, don't they? So this is what I wanted to talk about. You know, excuse me. A lot of people I speak to are looking for a silver bullet. They're looking for a big bang. You know, can I come and do a workshop or an intensive? Can I come and do a session with you? What's the magic book you're going to tell me to read? What resources have you got for me? And, you know, I love that, because that's about curiosity and passion. And really changes happen with curiosity, and they happen with passion, because energy follows intention. So if you think about it, curiosity aligns to intention, and passion is the energy we're talking about. So that's awesome. However, you know, major changes typically are a bit like learning a language. They say practice a language just in everyday life where you can, and that's a good way to learn it. I mean, I found that really good. It's a good way to chunk it down and make things easy. What I'm suggesting is that your insight, your intuition, your awareness, your experience of life and of anything you do to improve all of those increases exponentially if you bring that awareness into your everyday activities. You know, oh, that guy just cut me off. No worries. Oh, that guy just cut me off. Oh, hang on. That's a pretty harsh reaction. What's really going on for me? You know, be curious about yourself. Be curious about your own reaction in the moment. And if it means that potentially it's not that calm, peaceful, flowing place, because you know what? You can be upset, you can be angry, you can be all those things we said before from a calm, peaceful place. Because it's great to have our feelings, all of them, even some of those that we consider to be negative or not so nice. They're a part of who we are. It's what's underpinning that. We're in that connected, flowing, still place and having those emotions? Or are we so busy having those emotions that we actually don't know where they're coming from and the relativity of it here and now? Is this kind of making some sense?
Yeah, completely.
Good. So what I would say to all of you is observe your behavior. And even when you're feeling okay, if you feel you want to do something habitual, whether it's, you know what, I'll just go make a coffee, do something different. You know what, I want to go have a cigarette, do something different. Work out what's underpinning the habitual behavior, and you'll get big insights on yourself. Because we get into habitual patterns, and you know what? The activity anchors a belief and an interpretation of a reaction.
Do you know what? That's so true. For me personally, because like I have a habit that I'll do, and it might be simply to have a cup of tea because now's the time I have a cup of tea, and then I'm going to read this magazine or read this book, or and sometimes then that can be drawn out and I get completely sidetracked from when I was, and I just wish that I hadn't had the cup of tea. And however I felt, if I felt good when I sat down, I can literally walk away feeling something totally different, and I don't even know how it happens. This happens to me pretty frequently, actually.
So how does that sound as a statement, everyone else? This happens to me frequently. Let's use some living examples. How does that sound as a statement, gang? Should we try a hack in this moment? Should we try a hack in this moment today? What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, Nadine, let's have a hack. Let's do something here, and then let's revisit that statement. But don't do it from your thought. Hack hack in another way now.
Okay.
So I would probably start to shake your arms like this. That's it. Now take a deep, big breath. Big sigh.
Hang on.
You go. How are you feeling now? That's okay. The breath and the sigh was great. Good. That's actually enough. How are you feeling now? But take us off mute, please.
This is going to seem crazy,
Hmm.
but I'm actually less stressed. It's like
Funny about that.
Okay, good.
So tell us about the cup of tea again, please.
Well, I can be having a great day and everything can be going beautifully. And I think, you know what? I feel like a cup of tea. Now, in the past, the reasons for having that cup of tea, I feel are different for why I do it now. So I think, I deserve a break. I'll have a cup of tea. And somewhere in that process of having a cup of tea, whether I'm reading a book or whether I check Facebook or I don't know, I just feel,
Right.
you know, and I think, but I might have gone into it completely happy and motivated with how the day's been going, and then I have to drag myself out of that.
So what you're describing is really important, because there's a behavioral pattern that carries emotions and experience behind it. And irrespective of your reality now, that behavior pattern clicks you back into that same reality that you used to have. It's not a very nice one, and it's not a very productive one in your case. So this would be a good thing for you to create a hack in, because it doesn't mean that we have to go back in and try and work out what's going on and all of that. Let's just bypass that. Otherwise, we're forever, thinking and psychoanalyzing, and it'll drive us all nuts. Let's live life a little bit, right? Let's just intervene in some of these and change your reality in the moment. Come back and go back to the space you're in, and decide, hey, you know what? Maybe I don't need a cup of tea. Maybe I'll have a cup of cocoa. Maybe I will have a cup of tea and do it in a different way. And then if it starts happening, I'll intervene and go, oh, hang on a moment, I'm transitioning, rather than just end up somewhere. So take a different view and rewire and re-anchor what these actions and energies are and experiences are. How would that be?
I think that'd be great. I really do. I don't think I even realised it was happening.
Sure. And yet it's interesting, and that's a great example. You don't realise how that it's happening, and yet the way you described it to me felt like it was quite a significant burden where you ended up. Versus
I got very cranky, when I realised and then that crankiness took me through the rest of the day up until the point when I went, okay, well, today's over and I, don't need to be cranky anymore. But I'm not sure why I needed to be cranky in the first place.
So it was pretty stressful being cranky a lot of the day for no obvious reason, wasn't it? So I don't know about you guys. You're welcome to be cranky and stressed, but I've got 3 girls and my wife and the dogs and stuff, and when I'm cranky, they don't like it. So if I'm okay being cranky, they quickly tell me to go, sort myself out. So I prefer that choice, where I can go and do something else and intervene and change my experience. But it is a conscious choice then for all of us, right? Sometimes it's okay. You just feel like you want to be grumpy and cranky, and that's a choice, and life is good. So that's really what I wanted to cover off today, albeit briefly, because we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours, is that we have these experiences. If we can bring our awareness to the action, to the reaction, to what baggage comes with it, we don't have to do anything more. Let's just create a hack that changes that experience. Make a different choice. Consciously choose for another reality. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Totally.
But it has to be active. It doesn't happen by itself. We have to actively decide to do that. So if I can suggest anything, please try those. And, you're welcome to post or send messages on what you're trying and what's going on. And, we can continue this. And obviously we've got a series of webinars, so we'll be discussing other things. And as you see, we like to use practical examples. So if you're coming, bring your examples along, because I think we get the most out of that sort of thing. Is that cool?
Absolutely. Yep.
Any questions before we head off?
No, it all makes perfect sense. Thanks, Renelle.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad it's clear. Where that's the idea. We want to be very practical and very clear with our discussions.
Absolutely. And even the examples as well, Nadine, with your example of the cup of tea, I have the exact same thing in the morning. No, in the mornings with my cup of tea, my cup of coffee. I never used to drink coffee, and I swear to you, I never drank coffee. And then I bought a coffee machine for my husband because he loves coffee. And now I drink more coffee than what he does.
I
And
saw
for
you
the
smile when she was talking about it. I thought there's got to be something to this.
And for the last week, I have set the intention, right, I'm not going to have a cup of coffee. I'm actually going to do some yoga. Needless to say, it hasn't happened. And this morning, I just, half awake, walked over to the coffee machine and made my coffee. And my son turns to me and goes, "Mum, can we do some exercise, please?" And I'm like,
oh, beautiful.
Wow, he has actually heard my intention. He's making me do this. And then there was every part of my body that just said, no, I just want to drink the coffee.
Drink the coffee.
Drink this coffee.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actively made that
and so, you know
choice.
what? I was just going to say, in that moment, you can say, well, no, today I want to drink the coffee. And that's perfect. It's a conscious choice in the moment. Yeah.
Well, I did both. I drank my coffee. I drank my coffee, and then we got out a sheet of yoga practices, and
I love it.
The yoga as well. So
well done.
I can gradually do.
Listen. I think here's the thing. In a lot of these things, we can try and hold ourselves overly accountable. You know what I mean? We hold ourselves to yes or no. It's always black or white. For me, ultimately, conscious choice is neither. It's when you decide, you know what, I am going to have the coffee. And yeah, it feels odd. In fact, I know it'll make me feel crap, but right now, I just want the damn coffee.
Yeah.
So what? That's a conscious choice, isn't it? Rather than you've just had it and away you go. So that's all I'm about, I think, is that if we can create this authentic connection to us in the moment and have the ability to choose actively what we're going to do, we're in a good place. No, very few of us are like, Zen monks or masters that live in the real world of all of us that I've met. I've met a lot of people, and there's been some really, really amazing people and truly masters, connected and inspiring. But they're human also. And the more they're engaged in their human lives, the more of that humanity comes out. And this is what we want, is this ability for conscious choice, in my mind. Cool.
Interesting. Yeah.
Well, thanks for participating, guys. No doubt we'll catch you again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nadine. Thanks, Renelle.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.